Hi everyone, we're back and I've got another little tidbit of Scotty's tips, Scotty's photography tips for you. And today we're going to talk about shutter speed, how to capture fast motion, how to capture slow motion, how to make the most of a night sky, all those sorts of things. It's very exciting. I've got some gear here to share with you as well that might make that a little bit easier. But starting off, what is shutter speed? Well, I want you to imagine for a second that you're looking at a pristine, beautiful landscape. It's Canada. You got, let's say there's a moose walking or running in the foreground and a beautiful scene the other side. I want you to imagine you open your eyes for 5 seconds. Then you close them. And I tell you, envision a single picture. That moose is going to be in multiple places. You're not really going to have a single idea or picture of where that moose was in relation to that background because it was moving. But imagine opening your eyes for like a millisecond. That moose hasn't had time to move. It's in the single spot. You know where it is. It's going to be very defined in your mind's eye. And that's how shutter speed works. Your camera shutter, got a camera here, your camera has a shutter inside. And depending on your shutter speed, it'll open really fast or it'll open slowly and stay open for quite a long time if you want to capture a lot of light. What that's going to do though is also capture a lot of movement because the world generally doesn't stand still. It's always moving. So 3 tips to help you with your shutter speed. First one is to know your camera. Typical camera setup. This is a Fuji XS20, but look, all your cameras will have similar sorts of dials and settings. On this one, I actually set my shutter speed with the back dial here. So up, down, goes all the way from 30 seconds, really slow, really open for a long time, to 8,000 milliseconds. I don't know what it stands for, 8,000 milliseconds. But very, very, an 8,000th of a second, I should say. What am I saying? Which is very fast. But that's how you change it. I shoot in full manual. I use my autofocus, obviously, but I like to have it in M up the top of my dial. And that's because I like to be in control of my photo. I don't want the camera to decide what's best for me. I want to know what's best for me and then, take the photo accordingly. And that leads into my second tip. That is know your subject. Now I've got a couple of examples for you. In this first example we have a white-bellied sea eagle. If you take a look, this white-bellied sea eagle is coming down. It's actually grabbed a fish super fast. It's going back up. This is in Kakadu. Now I can't believe I got this shot. I turned around for 1 second and saw it, grabbed my camera and got the shot. But because this eagle's moving extremely fast, I have needed to take this shot at maybe 1/2500th, 1/3000th of a second, really fast shutter speeds to capture that action. And because of that, I needed to bump the ISO up. But you know what? Modern cameras are pretty good at dealing with ISO. Lightroom has a denoise option. Use it. It's awesome. On the other hand, this next photo that I'm showing you is an astro shot. Now, believe it or not, you still have movement. You'll notice if you keep your shutter open for long enough, you'll get the stars moving because the Earth rotates. And so, generally speaking, the 500 rule works very well with astrophotography. So you divide the length of your lens, grab a lens, by 500. That gives you the amount of seconds that you'll have your shutter open for. So that's an example where you have a really slow shutter speed, not a really fast shutter speed. And look, somewhere in the middle, you're photographing a waterfall in nature. 1-2 seconds. Longer, and you might get a little bit too much light. You need to start playing around with ND filters, which is fine. That works. But But 1 to 2 seconds also means you don't have to worry too much about things in the environment moving. And so that's a really good way of doing that. So know your subject. Okay, tip number 3. Be conservative. Now, when I started my photography journey and learned about shutter speed, you know, I always erred on the side of caution. I was pretty cautious, and so I used a shutter speed that was too fast. And I never got any motion blur in my photos. And then I started to get a little bit better, and I thought to myself, well, technically speaking, if I capture that eagle going down, or I've got a static subject, I should be able to use a lower shutter speed and a lower ISO in order to gain image quality. And so sometimes it actually works. You know, it's awesome. But a lot of the time it doesn't work, and you get home and you look on your laptop or your PC and you'll have the tiniest amount of motion blur. There's nothing worse. And so I did a backflip, and I went back and I started being conservative again with my shutter speed. And you know, even for birds perched on branches, I used to do 1/125th of a second, even if they weren't moving. Nowadays I go 1/500th, maybe even more, because somehow motion blur always makes its way in, and it's so annoying when it makes its way in and ruins your photo, because you can't fix it. You can't fix motion blur. You just can't. And so that's my last tip for you, is be conservative. Use a shutter speed that's too fast, even if it means you have to bump that ISO up to 3200. It's worth it, especially not to get that motion blur. But those are my 3 tips. So the first one is know your camera and your settings, know how to change, know how to put it on manual. Second tip is know your subject and scenario. If you're working with a fast moving subject like an eagle, fast shutter speed, 2,500, 3,000th. If you're working with landscape, astro or anything else, get away with slow shutter speeds. And last of all, be conservative. You know, you're never going to go, oh man, I used too fast of a shutter speed. That sucks. Because your subject's going to be razor sharp. And yeah, even if you're using a high ISO, these days, software is able to deal with that and cope with high ISO a lot better. And special mention, get yourself one of these. I think it's called a remote shutter doohickey. I'm actually not sure what it's called, but it slows down your shutter speed so you can have it at like whatever you want. Especially with Fuji, you can keep your shutter open indefinitely, I think, until your battery runs out, which is super cool. But that's all for today. I hope you enjoy your Christmas, and if you like this video, leave a like, subscribe on YouTube, that'd be fantastic. But honestly, go out and enjoy taking photos. That's all I ask, and that's all we ever want. See you next time. Woo!